So Candace Owens bet her whole political career and credibility on whether Brigitte Macron is actually a biological man. Not a good bet. Hello, good people. It is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And this Candace Owens, Brigitte Macron, now lawsuit is really starting to heat up. I mean, it's really interesting. You know, the thing that's really fascinating about this entire thing is that there couldn't be a topic that has more upside risk for her and less relevance to the American public. I mean, I would think that if Candace Owens wanted to stake her entire political credibility and career on something, it would be something of significant importance to the American public, especially, but to her in particular, right? You would think that maybe there would be something that she personally had at stake, or, you know, something that politically, right, would be, very impactful to her and obviously to the American public because she is an American, right? But this Brigitte Macron thing, the Macrons, I mean, there couldn't be a less relevant issue to the American public. And so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the only thing that really makes sense is this is kind of a money grab. And having watched her entire series on Becoming Brigitte, and I watched that, so you didn't have to. So thank me later. I can tell you that the tone of it was malicious. I mean, it seems like she has like a hatred for the Macrons. And while there are some interesting things that I feel like are certainly worthy of our ire and some disdain that might be taking place in and amongst the Macron's inner circle, the kind of hatred that she has, it doesn't really make sense to me. It's really weird. And so she's decided that she's going to attack them. Now, Candace Owens, for me, the reason why I've been doing videos on Candace Owens, and I recently did a video called Candace Owens Descent into Madness Explained. I'll put a little link up here in case you want to check that out. But the reason why I decided to talk about Candace is because Candace has been on a steady and, slow descent with respect to her views about Israel, about Jews. It's very interesting, but that actually is a topic that is of great import to the American people. After all, Israel is an ally against a very real and present threat to America, which is radical Islam and jihad. All of the radical jihadist nations and regimes, they say two things that they definitely want to do. They want to bring death to America, and they want to bring death to Israel. And so it makes sense that Israel and the United States would be natural allies, and that there are things that are in our interest that are also in their best interest. And so that makes sense. And some people think that Israel is, we give them too much support and all of this stuff. And obviously, Candace and those of her ilk are in another category, because I think what they do and what she does is clear and blatant anti-Semitism. So that's why she got on my radar, and that's why I decided to do an expose on Candace. But this Brigitte Macron thing, this is just weird. And what this demonstrates is that Candace has the kind of hubris and arrogance and this just odious kind of maliciousness that I think this is going to be her undoing. And so I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, what I kind of gone just at a very high level, and I may go into details later, what I gleaned from her Becoming Brigitte, this whole series where she's basically claiming that the French president's, Emmanuel Macron's wife is a biological man. But there's an interesting... What I found was that as she laid out her case, right, much of it's circumstantial, a lot of it's almost basically tabloid gossip, a lot of it's like way out there conspiracy theory nonsense for which there's absolutely no credibility. Like, for example, she starts to talk about MK Ultra and the coincidence that apparently Brigitte Macron's like parent died on the same day that MK Ultra started. I don't know. It's weird stuff. Okay, but it doesn't matter. But I thought that at least I came away thinking, even though I find Candace very distasteful, malodious, to say the least, I didn't think that what she was saying was completely implausible. I just think that she didn't actually prove it. She didn't actually provide proof that Brigitte Macron is a man, even though that is at least a possible option. That's on the table. But what I found after watching this video provided by Nate the Lawyer. Nate the Lawyer is a popular YouTuber, and I encourage you to check out his show. Very good stuff. Check out his channel. He did kind of a bit of an expose of Candace's omissions, convenient omissions in her series. And I'm going to talk about that right now and talk about what it might mean for her. And then talk about more broadly, which I think is the main point of me doing this video, is helping you understand why Candace Owens is really a dangerous and really untrustworthy person. I really believe that. So we're going to take a look at Nate the Lawyer's take on Candace and her convenient omissions from this lawsuit. Let's have a look.
So what evidence has the Macrons put forward to debunk Candace Owens? Well, the lawsuit tells us what evidence they gave her. Here are Brigitte Macron's childhood pictures. Here's Brigitte Macron marrying her first husband. And to Candace's accusation that Brigitte Macron and her brother are the same person, here is Brigitte Macron's brother and Brigitte Macron in the same room with Emmanuel Macron, as you can see in the documents. They also provided birth certificates, other family photos, and family birth announcements of Brigitte Macron having her own children. They claim that all this evidence was ignored by Candace Owens, who continued the campaign of harassment. All right, we can't go through all allegations because this video will be an hour long, but...
So I just want to pause there because, because I watched the entire quote-unquote expose. I will have to say that... if they provided her that information, Candace is in trouble. And the reason why is because, some of those pictures or things that I saw that Candace Owens did present, she basically dismissed them, just by way of personal incredulity. Like basically, well, I don't believe you. That's not good enough. And I don't know that that's going to fly in the court of law. But, let's just presume that the things that she said she just didn't believe. Let's say there were good reasons for her not to believe that. Okay. She's still in trouble because one of the central claims is that actually Brigitte Macron is actually who is the person who is purported to be her brother, right? And he's saying, well, that's not actually her brother. That's actually just Brigitte before she transitioned, or whatever you want to say, he transitioned into a woman. And so that's her claim, that that Brigitte Macron has no older brother called Jean-Michel, but actually that's just him when, before he transitioned. But she conveniently left out photos and there again, this is according to the lawsuit. And so I do have to say, this is what they allege that they provided. So I have to be fair there. I don't have any proof that they provided this information, but this is what they allege in the lawsuit. They provided her this information, and Candace Owens did not mention that at all in her series. She didn't mention that they provided her with birth certificates. She didn't mention that they provided her with an announcement of her birth as, their little sister, like the little sister Brigitte, right? She left that stuff out. And she continually made claims that she asked them for proof and information and they wouldn't provide anything. Now, here's the interesting thing. Candace Owens puts it out there like she asked questions in a very specific way and wanted very specific kinds of evidence. And so the question becomes, is Brigitte Macron or does Brigitte and her family, are they required to provide the kind of evidence and information according to what satisfies Candace's personal incredulity, in particular, and all of her idiosyncrasies and personal requests, when it is obvious that she is a malicious actor? She doesn't actually already thinks, the whole tone and tenor of the entire, so-called expose or the series about Brigitte Macron is very, 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 very condescending, very biting and attacking. And you can imagine that if someone is treating you that way, you're not so keen on bowing down to their every detailed request for information. But my good friend Jason Whitaker, the Jay Witt podcast, go check him out as well. He covered this the other day, and he had a brilliant explanation for this. And he believes that basically they set Candace Owens up to fail, and she took the bait. Because Candace Owens likes to think she's the smartest person in the room, and she is not the smartest person in the room. Just again, her arrogance, her hubris, just the whole tone. I mean, if you can stomach it, just go take a look at some of the documentaries or the so-called exposés and the Becoming Brigitte series, and you'll see exactly what I mean. It's hard to explain, but it's very, very, it's very weird. I can't explain. That's all I could say. Is it had a weird energy about it. But they gave her just enough information to show that in her documentary, she ignored a lot of the evidence that they provided, and or even if she did address it, she basically just said, "I don't believe you." And as a chess move, as a strategy, if they did that and they gave her just enough information, and this was before she produced her series, then that's enough to say you had a reckless disregard for the truth, which is the standard for malice with respect to any sort of public figure. That you have to either show definite malice or reckless disregard for the truth. And if they gave her this information and it was just enough information to basically entice her into ignoring that information and saying, all right, if you take this bait, if you don't accept what we're saying and you take this bait to go on attacking us further, then now we've got you because we gave you exactly what you needed in order for you to basically, if you disregard it, we have you with real malice and a reckless disregard. So it looks very much like that was the case in this situation, because there again, if you watch the series, a lot of that stuff that they said they provided to her, Candace did not mention in the series. And so what's the upshot of this thing? Because like I said, this Brigitte Macron thing, I mean, like quite literally nobody cares. You know who's watching this stuff? You know who I imagine is watching and gobbling this up with all kinds of, carnivorous, hunger and desire, is a bunch of women who are into gossip, because this is like tabloid crap. It really is. I don't understand why American people care about this. It just doesn't matter to us. I mean, we have our own country. We have a lot of stuff going on over here. What the French and I just got to be honest with you, the French. I'm sorry if you're French, if you take offense to this, but the French, they're kind of perverts. I'm just going to say that. They have a kind of a perverted, very, very kind of weird vibe culture, especially when it comes to sexuality. They're philosophers and psychologists like I forget his name. Now I'm drawing a blank. That doesn't really matter. You saw what they did at the Olympics. You saw the opening ceremonies. You see how weird they are. Need I say more? Okay, need I say more? So this is just kind of how they are, and we get that, and that's why they're over there and we are over here, and so it's kind of not our problem, right? The reason why this is a problem is because Candace Owens is enormous, like her or not. She is an enormous figure in the conservative space, so-called conservative space. Now, I don't know if there's a lot of people who have basically have found her to be kind of unpalatable as of late. But what I want to do is I want to draw your attention to the fact that this is the same pattern that Candace Owens tends to show when she's talking about Israel. And in my video where I talked to when I just explain kind of her descent into madness, as I call it, I read a significant portion of a letter that Dennis Prager wrote to her. Dennis Prager is a Jewish historian, conservative personality himself, and also one of the people responsible for launching Candace Owens into the stratosphere with respect to conservative political commentary. He wrote a letter basically going down the line, eviscerating every ridiculous and libelous point that Candace tends to make towards Jews and the Jewish state and all of this conspiracy theory about Leo Frank and Frankism and cults and pedophilia and all of this stuff. And he goes through and just lays out logically why she's wrong about almost all of it. And you know what Candace Owens did? She completely ignored it. She didn't respond to his actual letter, even though he is a person that should command her respect because of the role that he played in helping her become basically the star that she is today. She completely ignored him, completely ignored his admonitions. Didn't he correct her on several factual, not talking about opinions and things of that nature, but he corrected her on several factual errors that she made, and she did absolutely nothing to correct the record. And so the only difference is that if she would have come out against Dennis Prager with her arrogant, biting tone, there's no way she would have survived that. I mean, she can go after Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron because nobody in America cares about them because what they're doing over in France doesn't really matter to us. But when you start attacking people here who are of a upstanding reputation and people who are known to be reasonable and factual, then that's not going to fly. So instead of doing that, instead of trying to go and basically providing a counter argument, which she had no counter argument, she just ignored it. But that didn't stop her from her slander and libel and her, literally blood libel and all of this other nonsense and conspiracy theories about Frankism and the Frank cults and the murder and assault of Mary Fagan, a young Catholic girl, which she wasn't even Catholic, or at least there's no proof she was Catholic. So if you stay tuned, I'm going to be going through that letter from Dennis Prager. And again, if you want to see kind of the main portion that I read about Frankism, again, that being the video that I did and about her descent into madness. But we're going to go through meticulously because this may be really the end of Candace Owens. But I want to show you that this is not the situation with the Macrons. This is not new. This is not new. This is Candace Owens' MO. And she's been doing this for a while, but she's been too arrogant to take heed to the fact that, hey, you might want to slow down, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And now that she's staked her entire political reputation on a completely silly and meaningless claim about a French president's wife being a man, I think you're going to see the demise of Candace Owens very soon here. And I think it's pretty sad. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you want to hear more about this, I'll certainly be having more about this in the future. If you're new to this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, my friends, God bless you.